Our story today begins with a small passenger plane heading towards America. Suddenly, one of the passengers is surprised and asks the flight attendant why the flight path changed suddenly. She starts to explain that the weather on the main route has become very bad. And that's why the pilot decides to change the route and fly over the Amazon. Since there are only 8 passengers on this flight, no one really pays much attention to this. After a while, suddenly the plane starts shaking violently. The pilot notices that the GPS system has completely stopped. Even the control panel stops responding. Immediately he tries to contact the control station, but all his attempts fail. That's because the wireless communication system also stops. Strangely, the pilot has a feeling from the start that something wrong is going to happen. And immediately, while trying to control the plane, he takes out his mobile and records his last video. In the video, he says that this plane is hiding very dangerous secrets, and ever since he saw these things, he suspected that a big disaster might happen. Then the plane starts to fall rapidly towards the ground, and in front of them appears a massive forest and high mountains. The pilot tries to reduce the plane's speed using tree branches to lessen the impact force. After the plane continues for a long distance, it finally stops. Surprisingly, most of the passengers come out alive, but the flight attendant who wasn't wearing a seatbelt dies on the spot. At the moment, the passengers start talking in fear and no one knows what to do. Initially, they make sure that no one has serious injuries except the flight attendant. Then 2 of the passengers quickly enter the cabin to check on the pilot, but as soon as they see him, they are shocked because large tree branches are piercing through his chest and out the other side, yet he is still barely alive. The 2 try to move the seat a bit so he can breathe. Suddenly they hear the sound of fire coming from outside the plane. At the moment, all the passengers quickly get off and try to put out the fire because they know that if the plane burns completely, they won't have a place to hide until someone rescues them. After a while, things calm down a bit and the 8 passengers sit together and try to figure out which part of the Amazon they have reached after the course change. And they all discover that there is no network on the phones, meaning communication with the outside world in this forest is almost impossible without a special device. Also, the forest extends for hundreds of miles, making it almost impossible to walk out. The bigger disaster is that no one outside even knows the plane crashed here, meaning no one will think to look for them. Dawn. And suddenly, one of the passengers named Jack suggests that everyone should introduce themselves, saying they need to understand each other first to make the right decision. Then Jack starts by introducing himself, saying he works as an insurance investigator and his job is to uncover people trying to commit insurance fraud. He also mentions he was returning to America after finishing a case. After him, another man introduces himself, saying his name is Kevin and he works as a doctor. Kevin explains that after years of working in medicine, he is opening a medical equipment company and is returning to America for his work. Then Kevin examines the pilot's condition and understands that his vocal cords are damaged, which is why the pilot can no longer speak. But at the same time, he is the only person who might know how to get them out of this place and they must save him by any means. And then immediately the 3rd passenger tells them that her name is Christy, she loves to travel, goes around the world and uploads her videos on social media. At the same time, while she's talking about her life, she suddenly falls silent and doesn't respond when someone asks her about her past. Then the 4th passenger says his name is Carlos and mentions that he is a wrestler from Mexico and he shares that he is going to America to participate in a fighting championship. Then a young couple appears and introduces themselves, saying their names are Danny and Amy and they share that they are newlyweds going to spend their honeymoon in America. Finally, there is an older couple who say they are David and Lisa, explaining that they work in a hotel in a small town in America. David mentions he is going for heart surgery. And after each one finishes talking, they understand each other in a simple way, and at that moment they have the pilot with them who is in a difficult condition and can no longer speak. Suddenly, Jack suggests that they gather the food and water on the plane and divide it among themselves to see how long they can last. After calculating, they find that the food and water will last about 3 days. At that moment, Jack says that if it rains or there's a storm, they might float. They prefer to stay inside the plane, but that's why they need to move the flight attendant's body outside to make more space. After completing this step, they start looking for a solution to get out of there. They go to ask the pilot if there is a satellite communication device on the plane. They also try to understand how the plane went off course and ended up in this forest without any clear reason. The pilot tries to speak, but it's clear he knows something and can't explain it. At that moment, Jack says that since Kevin is a doctor, he should treat the pilot, but Kevin refuses and says that the pilot's condition is serious and there are no tools or medicines here. If they intervene, he might die faster. So they decide to wait a bit until his condition stabilizes. Meanwhile, Lisa takes the food out of the plane and distributes it among them. After eating, they start to regain some hope that they might survive. At that moment, Christy looks towards a high mountain and says that if they climb it, they might find a signal or any reception. Os post. And she suggests that they try to go up there. But night has fallen, so they say, let's leave it for tomorrow. At that moment, the pilot's condition suddenly worsens. Kevin, who had been silent the whole time, feels the situation is dangerous, so he decides to intervene and perform the operation himself. He asks them to bring any tools from the plane. Indeed, they gather simple things like a knife, alcohol, and items for sterilization. Without any anesthesia, he starts the operation. The pilot is in pain and moves violently, but despite that, the operation is completed. After he finishes, he tells them that if the pilot rests, his condition might improve by morning. While everyone is asleep at night, there is a person wearing a mask moving quietly towards the injured pilot, approaching him, holding his breath and pressing hard on himself until he prevents him from breathing. At that moment, the pilot starts to weaken until he completely stops and dies quietly. The next morning, as soon as everyone wakes up, they find that the pilot is dead, and they are very surprised because his condition had improved after the operation and he was about to tell them important things. Dr. Kevin examines him and tells them that there is no infection or disease in his body, meaning his death is unnatural. At that moment, everyone starts talking, saying that someone should have stayed awake to watch him all night, but it's too late and nothing can be done. In the end, they say maybe he died because of his injuries, so they take his body and place it next to the flight attendant's body under a tree in the forest in case a rescue team comes to find them. At that moment, no one notices that the pilot's phone falls from his pocket and Danny secretly takes it. Amy asks him what he did. The say, "Wanna you now see you get it?" He tells her not to tell anyone because he doesn't trust anyone at all. Then Danny goes towards the body alone and cuts the pilot's finger to unlock the phone with the fingerprint. Meanwhile, David and Lisa are talking. Lisa says she doesn't think his death is natural because she was a nurse before and saw a similar case. And she says his face was dark like someone who died from suffocation, meaning someone intended for him to die, but she didn't tell anyone because she feels the killer might be one of them. David is shocked and asks who could do such a thing. Lisa tells him they must remain cautious and trust no one. Suddenly, Lisa feels like someone is listening to them, so she quickly falls silent. At the same time, Christy goes to Amy and says she knows that Danny and Amy are not going on a honeymoon. At that moment, Amy confesses and explains that she is the daughter of a very wealthy man and Danny used to work as a driver for them, but they fell in love and ran away because her family wouldn't approve. Christy understands that they were hiding the truth so no one would suspect them. At that time, Carlos comes with good news and says he found a tracking device in the plane wreckage and if they take it up the mountain and activate it, they might get rescued because the signal will reach far. And he says he can fix it by tomorrow. Everyone feels a bit hopeful that there's a chance to get out of this place. Carlos says that his father was an electrician who taught him all this work, but he wanted to become a fighter and left his father's path. Jack says they will fix the device today and go up the mountain to activate it tomorrow morning. Suddenly, Lisa delivers bad news that changes everything, which is that the food was stolen even though they have only been in this place for 1 day. The empty food that was supposed to last for 3 days is almost gone. At that moment, Jack and Christy quickly enter the plane and search for whoever stole the food, realizing that this was intentional and someone is deliberately consuming the food. While they are searching, Jack notices that Christy is searching in a very organized manner, as if she is used to investigating. At that moment, he says she's not an ordinary person at all because no normal person would do that while looking for any evidence, and at that moment, Christy stands up and tells them the truth, saying she's a journalist. She travels to many countries to uncover gangs and criminals and expose them. That's why she was hiding her identity so that if there was a criminal among them, he wouldn't think of attacking her. At that moment, everyone understands that each of them is hiding something about their life, and since the food and water are decreasing, Jack says that Carlos must stay to fix the GPS device. And the rest must go out to search for food and water in the forest. As they walk, they find a blue mushroom on the ground. Christy examines it quickly and warns them that it is very poisonous. If anyone gets close to it, they could die within hours. And she tells them not to go near it at all. She also says that this type grows in damp places. This means there must be a place nearby with water. After walking a bit, they find a water pond, but the water looks dirty and can't be drunk.